Hello, everybody. Welcome to Case Management Week 1, Case Management 1, Week 4. And this week we're going to continue our discussion on the assessment needs for clients and how we engage in the assessment process. And we're just talking about the 5 C's. The first C, what is the first C, everyone?
Being calm and collected.
Being calm and collected. Make sure your client is calm. The second C
is
how quickly we forget.
Where are my 5 C's? Explaining the process, but I can't remember what that is for C.
Clarifying your role.
Clarify your role. Very good.
Client comfortable.
That was the first one. Client comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Calm and collected. Client calm, comfortable. There's about 58 C's in this already. So number 3. Client calm. Confidentiality. Explain the rights for confidentiality and privacy. And record keeping. How you're going to keep records and what you're going to do with them, who you can share it with. Number 4.
Consent processes.
Consent. Well done. Make sure the client is understanding that they need to consent to share information. And there's one more.
Complaints procedure.
Complaints procedures. Well done. Congratulations, you win the prize. Today's prize is my car. Okay, so we do the 5 C's and then we get we get involved in our meeting. And when you do your simulated meeting in week 6, the first thing you do is the 5 C's. So you've got to get them down. Remember them. Sit down and say, I am here. You're here. Well done. Bang, 5 C's. First thing you do. Don't do anything else. You've got to make this a habit in your interviews. It becomes like a Miranda for the police. You have the right to remain silent. When they arrest you, they always got to follow this process. So you do the same thing. You sit down and become habit forming in the way that way you've covered yourself, because nothing is legally there. And, they can always dispute it, but you can say, look, I always do it. I never forget it. It's always done 5 C's. But for your assessment, you need to demonstrate that. Now, Sonia won the game the other day where we were talking about the support needs, and I thought I wanted to say something which I'm not sure I really made the point. I think basically when we did the game, people were missing the key questions. That when information comes up, when you're talking to your client will give you information and you follow that like a bloodhound in a way that you need to track down information so you're clear about things. So, for example, I said, and I've said it already, I said, I am homeless. I have broken up with my family, with my wife, and and I left the family home and I'm sleeping in my car, and I don't have an income. Now, people didn't really follow that through with questions. What are the natural questions that you would ask there?
When did you become homeless?
Possibly, but they were trying to identify support needs. At the end of the day, we identified the support needs were that this guy was a problem gambler, which is a difficult one to identify because they don't have obvious mental health issues. They might seem like a bit down on their luck financially, but it's unclear why that is. But in this situation where, in this statement that I said, I've left the family home and I don't have any money. What are the questions that you would ask there? I would automatically follow these up. I would hear these things and go,
What's happened?
what happened? Yes. Now, Sally, you say, but nobody asked that. There were 3 people, and And one thing I thought was, wait a minute, why didn't I? Because I kind of reflected on our lesson, and I thought, why did nobody ask me those questions? Because I know why it is. Because it's rude, isn't it?
We're not supposed
it's
to
kind
maybe
of,
be overly curious about.
it's rude. It's intrusive. You know, why did you break up with your wife? It's rude to ask those questions, isn't it? But unfortunately, when somebody comes to you for a service, you actually have to take a role which is intrusive, and in some cases you have to be clear in your process. You have to be respectful with your clients, and in order that you can then go and ask some questions which would naturally be, you would not ask questions like that of somebody you met for the first time socially, but we're not doing that. And I thought, yeah, this is what I thought I should focus today's learning on, in actually saying, you actually got to go and be rude to people. And I mean, in some cases, I've been a little bit unprofessional, especially when I used to go, I was the gateway into a homeless service in Melbourne. And people would ring me up, and every week, 3 people would call me up and say, I was just mugged. I can't really mugged. Where? Oh, really? Was it coming out of the train station? And then, yes, it was. And I go, oh, it'll be on film. Have you reported it to the police? And because I knew it was a lie, and nobody got mugged. What happened was they were heroin addicts, and they were always the same thing. They were heroin addicts who had spent all of their money on heroin, and when did you get paid today? Where's the money? They've repaid a drug debt, or they've gone and bought more drugs, and then they've decided their second need are a bed for the night. When you get paid, you know, if you're on a limited welfare income, you have to be very clear about what your priorities are. And people were prioritizing that substance was their first priority, and everything else they would go through services to try and collect. And every week you'd see there'd be a group of people who would do this. It was weird. It was unerringly regular. And it became such that it was a joke. It was kind of very unprofessional to do that, I know. But these were kind of telephone assessments, and possibly they couldn't see me laughing down the other end of the phone. But it was, anyway. I don't recommend you do that. But you've got to ask people leading questions. So in that situation where we had the guy who's broke up with his wife, I would be asking, why did you break up with your wife? And I thought, if you'd have followed that questioning down the line to a point where you're satisfied that you understand what her problem is with you, we'd have got to that point of finding out I was a problem gambler much faster. Why did you break up with your wife? Because as I said to people in the game, I won't lie to you. If you ask me the right question, I'll give you the answer. And we'd have got there very quickly if somebody had answered that. And I thought, I've not done this activity before, and this is a really good activity, because what it did was expose people's natural ability to be polite and respectful. But unfortunately, in this job, you are required to be a little bit aggressive in the way you are working with people. And I've had to do this a lot. One of my jobs, another job, again around homelessness and housing, was assessing people looking for all sorts of housing situations in Footscray. And they would come into a service, and my job would be to assess their needs. It was entirely brokerage. And I did this job for years. So every day I would be doing 8 to 10 assessments of client needs. And it became very, very process driven, and understanding how this idea of assessment works, and how it works most effectively. And how it works most effectively is putting away there's a lot of subterfuge that people carry out, and for good reason, because they're in embarrassed circumstances. They come into services with their hand out saying, can you help me? And sometimes it's a very difficult situation for people, but other people are very experienced service users, and they live their life in the service sector and walk around with their hand out. Now, I don't want to be political about this, and I'm certainly not a believer in that economic liberalism idea that people who are receiving a welfare income are losers and bludgers and they need to get off their arse and get a job. I'm not saying that at all. There's a very definite need. But then again, if we look at the circumstances of somebody who, say, for example, heroin users, who will do absolutely anything to score their drugs. They'll steal from their families, they'll burn all their bridges, they'll let everything go to the wall in order to buy their drugs and use their drugs. So they become homeless and they've got no belongings, and they're very skilled manipulators by the end of that process because they've worked out what they can use to keep going in terms of feeding their addiction. And so addictions work in that way, but heroin users are particularly addicted to this, I think, and become very used to using services. And you'll find services are offering limited amounts of support periods for people. So, for example, if you come in and you get rent assistance from an organisation, they won't give you rent assistance again for another 3 months or 6 months. Might be the same with food aid, material aid, in particular, are regulated because there is a very clear culture of people abusing the services that are available. And you have to be kind of clear that when you're assessing people, you're identifying need, and you're not just going, what do you need? Let me give it to you and get you out of my hair. You're identifying genuine need. So it sounds like it's a bit kind of cruel, and it sounds very judgy and like, but unfortunately, this is the responsibility that we have now to make sure that our clients are getting what they need, but not more than they need, because, and that you're really fully understanding of, and I don't know if I've mentioned this, but I have wrongly assessed people and come to the end of support periods and found out later that people were entirely had other needs. And so assessment processes are very important, and they are ongoing. You're always assessing, you're always rethinking something. And you'll be surprised when you work with people how some people will fool you and trick you, and how some people who you think you've got their measure, and then all of a sudden you kind of go, I missed that about that person. I entirely didn't get that. Because we can't be, totally.
Got to prioritize.
Yeah.
You have to prioritize what you feel is the most important things that the people need to, like you have to do for that person.
Yeah, and think about, because sometimes you get people, and some clients will just fall in a heap and go, I need help with everything. So we use this strength-based approach to kind of go, no, you don't, mate. Come on, you've been able to cope with everything that's in there. We're not going to pick you up totally and do everything for you. But there are times where you say, we'll be able to do this and this for you today. And I suggest you go to that service and talk to them about your situation. But, the other thing is you kind of recognize, if you're in the sector, the more you're in the sector, you begin to understand services and their specific roles, and there are higher and lower order services. And if somebody is saying, I need some money, I need to, I've got to keep or I'll lose my accommodation. And if they're continually failing to pay their rent, you've got to identify, wait a minute, if there's a pattern, and patterns are something really important to recognize, that's telling you something. That pattern is saying to you, this is a recurring thing. This person's failing to remain independent in that accommodation. So that's not working for them. So you've got to find something that is going to work for them. That might be a shared accommodation option, for example. Might be a bed sit, or it might be that they need to actually fall out of a stable home life in order to come around to understanding how they need to operate to maintain that in the future. People need to fall down in order to get picked back up again. Now, it's not everybody. You've got to be very, it takes a degree of experience to be able to understand this, but some people you will prop up and keep them where they are because that's going to keep them from falling over, and they need to not fall over. There are other people who are continually going to be falling over, and propping them up any longer just isn't a viable option anymore. So this is where experience comes in when you're providing various supports to people and identifying need. So understanding need is a fairly nuanced and experiential learning curve that people have to go through. But certainly asking the right questions and not being shy of offending somebody and saying, yes, I need you to tell me, why did you break up with your wife? Well, you know, we had a bit of a falling out. All right, my friend, but for us to continue, you need to now tell me what you fell out about. Why did you have a falling out? You know, is she unhappy with you? Were you unhappy with her? Was there some violence that went on? And, you know, you might even go and accuse somebody of something offhandedly, not quite, you know, was there some violence in the home? No, nothing like that. No, it's just, you know, my gambling's out of control. Oh, you're a gambler. Oh, thank you. Then you find the answers so there's a little bit of trickery involved there. And there's a little bit of verbal jousting that needs to occur for you to get the right answers, but you have to confront people. And we can look at some confronting, maybe on Sunday. I'll pull up some communication micro skills information about how to use confronting questions to appropriately get information from clients without totally breaking down your relationship with them. And sometimes, you know, you've got to be very dexterous, I suppose might be the word, in terms of pushing people and pulling them and just nudging them into the right position where they're going to give you the information that you need to be able to effectively assess them and do your job properly and not upset them. And then you also need to maintain your relationship with them, which is not as a friend. So you don't really have to worry that, oh, if I upset this person, they're not going to like me. Well, if you're not liked, that's okay. That's not the worst thing in the world as a worker, you know. Not being liked. Building rapport does involve a little bit of being liked, but being respected rather than being liked can actually become the thing that needs to happen. And if you understand psychology, different people need different things in order to move forward. We're not all the same. We don't all have the same motivations and the same keys to operating. Some people need to be pushed, and some people need to be praised, and some people need to be encouraged, and some people need to be, you know, pulled down a little bit, especially if somebody's kind of unwilling to accept and acknowledge that they have support needs that are impediments to them progressing and managing to cope with their life circumstances. Then sometimes you might need to actually be quite aggressive in the way that you explain those circumstances to people. Right, I think I should shut up about that. As far as Gov says, that's all I've got to say about that. Does anyone have any questions?
I have to say, if I can say, quite a lot of the things that you're saying in the Zoom classes, and it's really interesting stuff because it's a lot of, as you say, experiential stuff. You know, based on real happening and what you're finding out in the field, does relate to a lot of the stuff that we're learning. You know, like that universal respect and equity for services and stuff. And, you know, I mean, it's sort of trying to find that sort of
The service sector, services
cohesion.
all have different, they're like people, and they're run by people, and they have managers, and they reflect certain interests. When you expect also, this is a service, I'll go to that service, and you expect them all to run the same way, and they don't. And you kind of go, this is all a bit, you'll go and try and approach a service, try and get a service for a client, and you'll find different experiences, different barriers are put up in terms of you as a worker trying to access services, and you go, why is it I can't just get a service for this client who's eligible? I've assessed them, I'm knocking on your door, why won't you just pick them up? And if not, why won't you tell me? Tell me why you can't pick the client up. Maybe you don't have, maybe you've got a wait list or something like that. But sometimes you find people are more giving and less giving, and sometimes I've actually had, especially domestic violence refuge services, I've called up and they've just hung up on me because I'm a man. And you go, what? Did that just happen? That did just happen. It's almost like, people are just kind of like bloody rude. I just go, unbelievable. I'm here with a client who's in desperate need, and these people are just kind of, and workers are stressed. Some workers are stressed, some workers are capable, but you learn, from work. And my suggestion is work in different fields to get experience.
How often does it happen that you've done an intake and at the end of it got the sense that you really haven't got to the bottom of what that person's story is at all?
In the beginning, a lot, and as I got more experienced, far less. But there's still cases where if you don't know, it depends on how the client will engage with you, because it's a really good question, Sally. If you don't know what's happening with that client, or you don't feel that you've got the full story, you make a decision that goes like this. Do you think the client's really engaging and willing to work in a support process? Or do you think they're just kind of, that for some reason, they're reluctant to become involved? Let's say they're a victim of domestic violence and they're not willing to engage in prosecuting the perpetrator of domestic violence and escaping from that situation and addressing with counselling. And people need to keep going back into those environments for a period of time before they're going to be willing to address that. It's the same with addicts. They talk about people with addictions taking the cure 9 to 14 times before it gives. So yeah. When you say, do you know the circumstances? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But it's more, are they willing to keep going? And do you believe them in that regard? That might actually be the decision-making process that is going on in your head as a worker.
Okay. It's a lot to it.
Yeah, it's not and different services will. Different services come to you with a different set of parameters, and you work with different managers and different supervisors who are more or less experienced and have different agendas as well. So they'll push you and pull you around. But I've worked with more services than most people you'll have met. I've worked on, I've worked in the UK, I've worked in Australia, and I've worked in different sectors. I've worked in disability, I've worked in homelessness, and I've worked with people with HIV, and I've worked with old people, and I've worked with young people, and I've worked with, so I've done all sorts of kind of stuff. People with acquired brain
learned a lot about people.
Injuries. Yeah, very, in different capacities as well, and it's that working across the sector and working around, everybody's job. By the time you know what everyone's job is, and you realise some people are, more or less good at their jobs, and some people can communicate, and some people burn out. Burnout's big. I've burned out in jobs, and some of these jobs are really hard. Where some of them are very confronting jobs for people, and if you feel yourself burning out, my advice is move along and find something else.
Yeah.
Which might still, it doesn't mean you have to lose your job or your career. You don't have to find a new career. Just find a new job. It's a little less confronting.
If anyone, I know that we're coming to the end. If anyone doesn't have any other questions, do you want to ask if anyone's got any other questions?
Does anyone have any other questions?
Okay, just quickly about the classwork. In the book, page 4, the hyperlink to the recording.
Good point. Don't worry. Good point. Thank you, Sally. Well done.
Also, the recordings, the Zoom recordings, there's no links for any of the Zoom recordings currently.
Yeah, there is.
It was in there this afternoon because I wanted to have a look at the Sunday one, and there was no links for any of the
I
recordings.
couldn't find things either. We're obviously not looking in the right spot because you said they were there. So where are they?
No, I found where they all are, but the link wasn't there. There was no link to be able to.
Let me show you. Where are we? Here we go. Is that?
Okay,
Yeah, no.
Yeah, there you
was
go.
in
no
that
links
column,
online.
there was no links.
Sorry.
Yeah, I had no links either.
They're in there.
I brought up that table, but there was no links.
Oh, really?
I can access the table too, and there was no links there either.
Really?
Yeah. Because I looked for Sundays too.
You see what happens. This is a Google Doc, right? So I update the Google Doc. The Google Doc just updates itself. It's in here. This is where I get them.
Yeah, that's where I went to, but
Really?
it wasn't there.
Can you try that?
That's where I went.
Can you try that now? Because it's a shared link, right? I've linked
Yeah,
to this Google Doc.
I can.
This is,
Reflective journal.
very weird.
Just go to my classes.
Thank you Sally, thanks for bringing up the book, which is not my fault, by the way. I didn't make the book. I made a better book. But you won't get it. It's for next semester. And thank you for bringing up these things, because this is how we sit through them. Yeah.
There was a few students who aren't at Zoom tonight that are a bit frustrated because they haven't been able to find the link for the recording to be able to do the
Thanks, Sally. Look, I'm not aware of that, and that's why we have discussion forums as well. But again, don't worry, I wasn't linked into that either.
I only noticed, well, you're not, and I did only notice this afternoon, so I thought, well, I'm going to do Zoom with you, so I'll bring it up,
Yeah, good, thank you.
Can you see my phone?
No, it's a bit bright. I can see a white, but you can't.
So I brought it up, but it hasn't got any links there.
Really?
Oh, okay, let me check mine too, because I've got mine as well.
Okay, hold on. I can do this. Let me do this again. No.
Yeah, mine doesn't show any links either when I bring it up on the iPad.
Something wrong with the link. Okay. In which case, what has happened is, I'll fix that now. I'll remake the link. I will re-link this with and can you give us 5 minutes, guys? If you give me 5 minutes, I will re-link this, and if you write back in the discussion forum, I got it or I don't have it. It'll take me about 1 minute to make sure that this is working. But maybe what's on the page is, see, I've got the same page as you. I find this a bit weird. I'll tell you what I will do. I'll put the link in the discussion forum as well. Let's Control C, because I've shared that. Loading.
Yeah, because I don't get, like, I brought it up again, just refreshed it, and there's no, like, it comes up week, date, and time, but no link to view recordings.
Okay. I'm going to copy that link directly into the discussion forum, and again, I'll reassert the link in here. I can.
And when you put in the hyperlink, would you mind just popping that onto the discussion forum, or do you want us just to recheck when that's done?
No, I'll put it onto the discussion forum as well, Sally. I'll do it.
Cool.
I'll do that right now. See, this is all the internal workings of the back page, right? You're seeing stuff that you're not meant to see in here.
No, that's exciting.
Let's. This is how you do it. This is how I do my job. It's There we go.
I think that the books are much better than the PowerPoints that we've been getting for this semester.
Sorry, I've got dogs. No, I've got dogs and visitors. Can you could you give me a minute? Let's end the support period, and I will come back. Okay. I'll send.
No worries. See ya. Bye.
See you guys. I've got visitors. I don't know why. I'll be on the try the discussion forum.